Hello everyone, welcome to another Magic the Gathering online video. I am BBD and I am going to be battling today with Green-Black Dredge. This was a deck that was super popular a while ago. Hasn't really seen much light of day lately, but the deck's still good. Especially with some sweet new cards like Farika and Temple of Malady to make the mana base a little bit better. The deck definitely did gain something from Journey to Nyx, and I'm excited to battle with it today and see if it can still hang with the big boys. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the deck. Um, as many of you have probably seen this deck before, I'm not going to dwell too much on some of the normal cards. So like the core of the deck is these 12 cards here: Satyr, Wayfinder, Grizzly Salvage, and Commune with the Gods. We use this to fill our graveyard with creatures, which makes Gerard and Nemesis Immortals good, makes Night Howler good, and then we have like Herald of Torment to give our huge creatures flying, um, Shadowborn Demon, very good with creatures in the graveyard, etc. Basically, all the cards in this deck really play very well with graveyard synergies, and these are the cards that dump them in the graveyard. We have some mana accelerants. We have a whip as well to play with our graveyard, and also our huge guys. Giving our huge guys lifelink is pretty important sometimes. So a lot of neat things going on in this deck. But really, I'm going to talk about the new card, and that is Farika, God of Affliction. And I actually think that Farika is unbelievably good in this deck. So it's for one, it's very easy to turn Farika into a creature. Gerard provides 4 devotion. Nemesis, Demon, all these cards provide 2 devotion, and then we're gonna have a lot of like Wayfinders, Sylvan Caryatids, and Elvish Mystics just like lying around over the course of a game that also contribute to Farika's devotion. So I really think that Farika is very easy to turn on in this deck, and then her secondary ability of making snakes also very good in this deck because we have so much fuel for her. We have so many creatures that go in the graveyard, so it's very easy to make a lot of snakes out of them. You can actually really grind your opponent out with the snakes pretty easily. So I actually think that Farika is just very, very good, and I'm pretty excited to play with her. New card missing is Nyx Weaver. We're actually not playing Nyx Weaver, and I think Nyx Weaver is like a decent card, but it's just a little too slow. It doesn't really do a whole lot by itself, and it's just a little too slow to get going. However, I think that there is room for a. I think there's a build that plays Nyx Weaver, Farika, all these bestow guys, and instead of Nemesis Immortals, you can play Eidolon of Blossoms, draw a bunch of cards as you're like going through your deck, and just kind of you have 2 engines. Then you have an Eidolon engine, and you have like the normal graveyard engine, and Farika goes well with both because the snakes she makes are enchantments, so they actually trigger Eidolon of Blossoms, but they also um, they're also good with the graveyard strategy. So there's something there, but that's kind of off on a tangent. I'm going to talk a little bit about the sideboard then. So another thing about Frika is she makes Whip better too as a permanent that provides devotion. Um, but yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about sideboard here. So we have 2 Shadowborn Demons main and 2 more in the board. Shadowborn Demon is just the best removal spell against any other kind of creature decks. It's just a huge body, kills a guy, they can't really attack through it, and then we have so many guys that fill our graveyard that it's pretty easy to make the second ability not that big of a deal. And even if we do have to sack the demon, we have second whip to be able to whip back Shadowborn Demon as well. Nihilist Disciple is entirely for like the burn deck and super aggressive decks, which are pretty popular right now. So I think it's important to have these. Between Whip and Disciple, we're hoping to gain life, but we also have big creatures, so we can sometimes race them. But and we don't deal a lot of damage to ourselves with our mana base. So there's a lot of benefits for this deck playing against burn, but it's still very good to just have actual like gain life cards. Force them to keep in cards like Skullcrack against us, even though it really isn't that good. So that's the reason for a card like Nihilist Disciple. Bioblade's a nod to Pack Rat, pretty much essentially. Golgari Charm is great against Detention Sphere and Supreme Verdict, so it's just a great card against the Esper decks, but it's also very good against Elspeth, killing all the -1/-1 or giving -1/-1 to all the soldiers, lets our big old beaters kill an Elspeth. So otherwise, Elspeth's one of the best cards in the format against the deck. So Golgari Charms helps in a lot of ways against Esper type decks or various Elspeth decks in general. Betrayals for Pack Rat and Desecration Demon. And then Pithing Needle, like I said, Elspeth's a huge problem. Needle is entirely for Elspeth, but it's also good against cards like Jace, other Planeswalkers, etc. And then we have a Miser's Abrupt Decay. Just a very good value card. I don't like playing a lot of random value cards in the sideboard of decks like this. We have so many creatures and the deck functions off of creatures that we can't really side a whole lot out and still have the deck function properly. So it's important to not dilute your deck too much in sideboarding. So that's why I like creatures that have abilities like Demon and Disciple. And I like to just not have a lot of cards that don't. So, like against Esper, I'm going to bring in Needle and Golgari Charm, but that's it. Like I don't want to dilute my deck too much. I don't want to side out too many guys, or the deck's just not going to be nearly as powerful as it otherwise would be. So, but yeah, this deck's pretty cool. I think it's still good right now, and I'm excited to play it in a daily event and see how it pans out. So hopefully you'll stay tuned for that and see whether Farika has what it takes to make it in the big leagues.